President Trump has recently been quoted that he said, of course, he's always thrown out that maybe around 2028. I don't believe so. I don't believe the Constitution permits it. But he said Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio would be a good ticket in 2028. So now the conundrum: who gets top billing?
Well, I think they're going to have to work that out. But here's the interesting thing: is to have two candidates of that quality, Greta. I mean, who would have thought? You have Vice President J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, which he's getting rave reviews all across.
That's the problem. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. So, interesting. These things have a way of working themselves out. I'm glad it's not Newsom and Kamala Harris.
Well, I spoke as a Republican. All right, Matt, same question.
I think this is dicey. Look, I think President Trump is in great shape. He looks great. And I think it's always awkward for a very powerful president to kind of cede power, walk away. Ronald Reagan did it. Ronald Reagan was a little bit sick when that happened.
But who takes the top billing on a Rubio?
And Ronald Reagan decided.
The question was
she's
the
pressing
top
us.
billing.
She's pressing us.
Rubio
Well,
and
Rubio
Vance.
keeps saying Vance because every time they ask Rubio, he says, "I think JD would be a great candidate." But remember the 11th commandment: Ronald Reagan wouldn't get involved in that primary. And so far, Trump has decided to follow the Reagan rule and to not get involved in the primary. If there's a big, vigorous primary, I predict there will be. It's going to be very interesting to see, can Trump stay out of that, or will he endorse his vice president or his secretary of state or someone else? I mean, it's going to be a very interesting thing. I would not want to be a Republican president with a former President Donald Trump vigorous commenting on the sideline. That might be interesting.
I'll tell you the bigger problem, I think, for the next president. Boy, I'm really reaching ahead of us, especially if it's a Democrat. I mean, and who knows what could happen. Is that on this just on the Air Force One, Trump went back to the media section, did 34-minute gaggle with. Okay, whoever the next president is, you're going to have to be as transparent as President Trump is, and I don't know that anyone else can do that, because we're going to be screaming at you, whoever you are.
Yeah, listen, he is not only skilled at that, but he enjoys that. It's not just going back. I've been with him on Air Force One, where he's gone back to the pool that's traveling with him and spent 30, 40 minutes. But it's also what we call chopper talk. It's on the way out to get on Marine One, where he's always.
He has set the standard for the next president, and the media is going to demand it.
But most of the others get a pass. Joe Biden got a pass.
Not anymore. I don't think anymore.
I hope you're right, because it's that transparency, that level of transparency that this president continues to answer the difficult questions. In fact, there were days when we said, Mr. President, this is a tough day. Yep, I'm going to go right for it. And was very clear and transparent. So I do think he set a standard. Hopefully it's something that Democrats will be called to.
I don't know who's going to be the Democratic nominee, but boy, I tell you, having two Californians vying for it, Matt, I think they ought to look for somebody in the Midwest.
It's the ATM, right, for really both parties, but definitely the Democratic Party. And I want to quibble with Kamala Harris, because she gets everything wrong, that we already have had a woman be the president of the United States, and that was Jill Biden. We all know it, and she knows it too, which was, it's the second time in our history where, because a president was incapacitated, that his wife stepped up. Woodrow Wilson's wife famously did it before Joe Biden. And look,
I think she meant technically.
Yeah,
I don't think she meant in the shadows.
But I think the Democratic Party owns this deception. I think it's a big problem for them. No one's ever kind of apologized or come clean, including Kamala Harris. She was in on this. And I think there's an odiousness to how the president's operated, or Joe Biden. They weren't honest. They weren't even honest about a very serious case of prostate cancer, just nothing. You talk about no transparency.
She says she's not done, and that she had a short race. But I actually sort of, looking back at it, I thought that inured to her benefit. She had a ton of money, and the more you heard from her and the more she talked, the less it seemed like people I thought the short race was actually something she was lucky about.
Well, you can see it in the polling. It started out very good in her favor and got progressively worse as we started getting towards November. But the other is, you got to have a platform to run from. She is now a former vice president. That's the only platform she has. The governor, Newsom, is a governor. You've got other people that will have other platforms. I don't see her being
We got a former president
serious.
winning again.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is he stayed the head of the party. And who's the head of the party? We've already had this conversation.
Who is the head of the party?
Well, it could be this mayor of New York City, this radicalized mayor, AOC.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. I mean,
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.